Hello everyone. Today we are going to work on our next Python module, which is control flow in Python. Let me remind you about the giveaway that we are going to have in the end of our course. On YouTube, on video, you will see the details for those who has not been present here last time or did not know what was going on. So we are going to solve some exercises and boost the activity with using some hashtags on YouTube comments. And you will be able to win like 50, 30, 20 pounds in the end of the course, just as a prize for your work. So now let's move to our today's step. I'm going to show you quite a few very necessary tricks besides Python that you can use while working and learning this subject for control flow. So let's start. I'm going to use the cursor ID. So it's pretty much same as VS Code. It's looking very similar, as you can see. You can use either cursor or VS Code. There is another way. What else are we using? We are also using Colab. Let me show you what it would be looking for Colab. Why I really like to work with Jupyter notebooks, as you can see, there was outline and there is also outline here, which allows us to create context table, which is very easy to navigate through. There will be quite a few things that we are going to work on today. Let's start. So, as it was mentioned before, today we are going to work on control flow in Python, which is split into two parts. Today we are going to work on the first part. We are going to talk about introduction to control flow, what it is, what do we need it for, how to use different conditional statements in Python, such as if-elif-else, what are nested conditional statements. We're also going to draw some graphs, some flowcharts to see how it works. We're going to work on match case statement. This is a new trick that was presented in Python 3.10. We are also going to work about operator precedence and order of operations. And also we'll obviously have a look at some practice problems and examples. Now let's switch back to our code and let's see what I have prepared for us to work on today. You already know that there is such a thing as flowcharts, where we use flowcharts for to represent some different algorithms. But we will not go deeply into syntax of Python programming. Today we are going to work on this. So what is control flow, first of all? It is in Python that allows us to branch our actions based on some specific condition. It can be used decision ones, such as if-elif-else. It can allow us to go loops, such as repeating some different actions, which would be for while loops. We're going to talk about this during next lesson. Function calls, some pseudocode subroutines that allow us to repeat the same code, to hide the repetition of the code. And for conditional statement, they allow us to execute certain blocks of code. So based on particular condition, if it's true or false. So now let's have a look. I think I can make it a bit larger. So this is the syntax, how it works like in Python. So you can see, in case if we have some condition, when we say condition, it should be some expression. The condition can be stored in some separate variable, or it can be written right there. So it should be condition that would always be able to return as value true or false. We can see it always starts with keyword if. Again, we remember we cannot use names for variables for specific keywords such as if, so it cannot be a variable. Then we're writing down our condition. We're going to dive deeper how it works. And then we always end it with column. And starting from the next line, we have indent. It is recommended according to PIP 8 to have 4 spaces or 1 tab. I recommend to use 1 tabulation as 4 spaces. Make your code look cleaner and more presentable. So here we have the very first example. We have defined the variable age, which is equal to 20. Then we decide to print a message, you are an adult, in case if the value stored in the variable age is larger or equal than 12. So based on the condition, our condition is age larger or equal than 18. So let's have a look what's going to happen now. It will say that we are now. Let's try to change the value to, let's say, 99. 99. What's going to happen? It still output you are an adult. But what's going to happen if I decide to change the value to, let's say, 15? There is no output here. Again, why there is no output here? Because there is such a thing as a scope, and we can see that this part is inside of if age scope. So in case if this condition is not triggered, we will not be able to reach the scope of print function, that is printing our message that we are an adult. Now, as I mentioned before, this is some kind of condition. Let's create a new variable and let's call it age condition. And now let's move this condition to this variable. Now let's check the output would be here. It would be output false. And now if we are trying to run the condition, run the if statement, age condition, it would show us nothing because this part is not triggered at all. Now let's try to change the value of variable age again. Let's change it to 19. So what do you think is going to be the output? Obviously, it's going to be true because, again, 19 is larger than 18. So as you can see, this is operator of comparison, larger than equal. We are comparing variable age to the value of 18, and we store the result of comparison in the variable age condition. Yeah. You can even use these brackets, regular brackets, to store it. So let's move to this example again. So we have a message that we are in it. Now, I want to show you some interesting trick here. Let's switch to our browser. So this was our original condition. Now, there is some custom GPT in ChatGPT app, which is called whimsical diagrams. You have seen me using the app before separately, and we can ask it the next prompt. Plot the graph for the next code. So we are sending, it analyzes, creating flowchart, and we can see the flowchart right here. So what I'm doing here, I'm clicking right button, copy image, then I'm switching back to my cursor or VS Code. They are working pretty much same. I'm creating a new markdown cell, Command V or Control V, depends what platform you are using, saving and running the cell. Wow. We have our flowchart. There is also one more other way. There is such a language that is called a Mirma that is used for flowcharts. Let's copy the code that we have right here and turn to ask ChatGPT to convert it. And this is the code that ChatGPT has given us for flowchart. It's not really very obvious what's happening here, but let's try to do the next thing. Let's try to create markdown, mermaid, and let's see if it's going to... Oh, so we are starting with setting variable to some value. We are checking if the value is larger than some specific value such as 18. If no, we are going straight to end. If yes, we are printing some output, the one that we have set before. So this is the way how you can use to represent the code during your exam, when you are asked to write down pseudocode or draw a flowchart. I can see there are no questions so far. And again, there is some explanation that basically repeats what I just said. Now, let's have a look at more complicated case of our if statement. In this case, it's going to be what? Else clause. So we have already spoken what's going to happen in case if our condition is met, in case if it's storing the value true. But as we know, binary. What does binary mean? That it can have two cases, 1 and 0. So 1 means that this is true condition, 0 means it's false condition, so it cannot be met. So we had code before only for true condition. It allows us to create a new scope that would be reachable in case we are having condition false. Let's have a look at this example, how we would define some number if it's even or odd. We remember, so to define if the number is even, we need to check its parity. How do we check parity in math? We just divide it by 2 and we are checking the remainder using modulus operator. In case if the remainder is 0, the number is even. In case if our remainder is not 0, such as 1, it can be either 0 or 1, then the number is odd, which is quite simple. We have talked about this before. So now we have some sample output 5. Let's try. It's asking us enter number. We are entering number 5 and we get output as odd number. Let's have a look at number 6. It's going to be even number. What does it mean? That the code is working as expected. So let's have a look at the code. So here we create a variable number of data type integer after we enter it from keyboard. Apologies, I have done something. So then in line number 3, we are writing condition if number modulus 2 and we are comparing it to 0 in case if the remainder is 0. Again, column and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 spaces here. And we are printing whatever we want to. In our current case, we want to print even number. In else case, we are printing odd number. Now let's try to make GPT create a new code for us. Let's see how good it is. Start, input number, if number, yes, print even number, print odd number. Looks pretty decent in my opinion. Let's copy this code and save it. Input number, modulus 2 is 0, print even number. Let's have a look at such a thing as multiple conditions. Sometimes we don't want to have condition 1 or opposite conditional. There are a lot of ways how we can create many conditions. Let's say we are talking about English Premier League. In case if the team is finishing the first one, they are champion. In case if they are finishing in top 4, top 5, whatever it is right now, they are going to UEFA Champions League. In case if they are finishing from 6 to 7, they are going to Europe League, etc, etc. In case if they are finishing in the last 3, well, they are going to champion. So we know that there are how many conditions I mentioned here? 4, 5. And we can't go here with just binary condition yes or no. So let's see how we can implement it. So let's start with some simple example. We are going to talk about condition 1, condition 2, and in the last case it's going to be. So we need to understand that condition 2 will be triggered only in the case if condition 1 failed. So let's see what the example here is going to be. Yeah, so it's quite cold here. Yes, you can see. Let's say we are entering some temperature and we are trying to check if the temperature is larger than, if it's hot. So for hot day, we define temperature is larger than 30 degrees. And in case if temperature is not larger than 30 degrees, then we are checking next condition, if it's larger than 20. You might ask me, why you are not checking it is in this way, that is less and equal than 30. And technically it is here correct. You can write down double condition, or you can even write down it in the way using AND operator. We are going to come to this a bit later. But again, since we have already checked that it's not going to be at least 30 degrees, sorry, if 31 degrees in our case, in case if we are talking about integer value. So we know it's not 31 degrees. This condition failed. It does not exist anymore. There is no point to move here and to check this condition because we know that it is already less or equal than 30. So checking if it's larger than 20 is enough. And as you can see, I'm writing down the name of the variable in the first place, then comparison operator, and then the value I'm comparing it. Recommended to write it down in this way. It looks neat. In comparison to writing down 20 is less than temperature, because you're not comparing 20 to temperature, you're comparing temperature. Let's use our code. Go back to our ChatGPT. Let's try to ask it to make a new flowchart for us. So again, we are starting, we are inputting temperature, and then let's have a look. Is temperature larger than 30 degrees? In case if it's yes, we can see we are printing it's a hot day and we are going straight to the end of the program. But in case if it's not, we are jumping down to another condition, which is what? We are checking temperature is 20. If it's 20, yeah, we are printing nice day and going to the end of the program. If it's no, we are checking again with 10. We are printing it. So as you can see, this diagram is quite complex. Can I make it larger? Yeah. So it may be looking a bit complex here, but nothing is really so complicated. We are just splitting one condition into 1, 2, 3 conditions. And again, how can we easily figure out how it works? You can see how many arrows yes we have here. We have 1, 2, 3 yes arrows, and the last no error is going to be our else condition. Let's have a look at our coding cursor so we can see how many times we have if. Here 1, 2, 3. Same as yes, and one else condition. That is the last no. Perfect. Let's copy the flowchart and let's add it here. The next thing, run it again to make sure it's working as expected. Let's run 25. It's a nice day. Perfect. Perfect. Let's move to our nested conditional statements. Let's try to figure out how nested conditional statements are different from regular conditional statements. So, and what are they? So in the flowchart, we saw that these conditions, temperature 20, is kind of nested condition for temperature 30. So let's have a look at the next example. This is not very good example for using nested condition. I'm showing it on purpose, so you will not overcomplicate the conditions. So let's have a look. We entered some number and then we decided to check if number is larger than 0. And we are going to check if number is equal to 0, we are printing 0. In other case, we are printing that it is positive number. In all opposite cases, we are printing the condition, message that it's negative number. Let's switch to our flowchart and have a look what it would be looking like. So we can see if number is larger than 0, then we are checking. If it's 0, we are printing 0. In case if it's not 0, we are printing positive number. In opposite case, it's obviously just negative number. Let's see how we could have written down in a bit more neat way. So we could have written down if number is larger than 0, then we are saying positive number. If number is less than 0, then we are saying negative number. In else case, we are saying print 0. So as you can see, these two... Oh, let me switch back to cursor. So again, let's have a look. How could we write it down the code? We could have said that if number is larger than 0, we are printing positive number. Else if number is less than 0, we are printing negative number. And in else case, when none of these two conditions is met, we are just saying print 0. Now let's try to put it into our ChatGPT to have a look at the diagram. And we can see there are two different codes, but the flowcharts are pretty much same. We basically can say that they're same, but they just have different branching. In the first case, we had extra branching for when number was larger or equal than 0. And here we had branching for what? For negative outcome. So let's save both of them. Let's move back to our... So this is the first one and the second one. Let's rerun the code and make sure that they both are working. Let's try 0 here. Both are showing us 0, which means it's working as expected. There is a better way how we can use nested conditions. Let's say we are playing in casino. I'm going to show you the code a bit later. So let's say we are playing somewhere in casino, and depending on the range, for example, from 10 to 20, the even numbers are black, odd numbers are red, and then the next range of 10 numbers, it's switching. So then nested condition would be necessary. Again, I'm going to show you this example a bit later. The next thing, very powerful thing that a lot of people underestimate, which is called ternary operator. As far as I believe, this exists in some other programming languages as well, or something similar at least. So what does it actually do? So we can see that in case if we have some specific condition, we can store the value in the variable, or if condition is not met, we can use other variable, other value. So let's have a look at our example. Is the age that we had above. Let's copy it. Let's copy it again. Where is it? So this is the example that... Apologies. It was right. Yeah, we split it a bit. So let's say in the beginning we had variable age something, and original code was comparing age to it's larger than 18, and else we would say... So this was our original code. So it took us how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Looks okay, not so bad, easy to read it, but we can replace it. So let's have a look at the output. It says, but now we can replace this code with just one line code, and we can see the output is not changing. Most of the, if not every, a Python developer will always be able to figure out what you have written down. So how you can read it? Basically what we've done here, we moved, let's create it again. So variable message, how it works. We have condition here, In case if the condition is met, then we are going to have value. But if condition is not met, what we are going to do? We are going to say else, another condition that we are moving from here. Let's check again. Everything is working as expected. Let's try to alter 20 to 17 and we would have you and mine. Any questions? No questions, boys. Perfect. Now let's quickly talk about logical operators, what they are, what they're used for. So again, these are basic logic gates and or and not that we have worked with before. We even used and to show the example with comparison numbers above. So we need to know few things. That AND operator is returning true value in case if both condition 1 and condition 2 are true. OR operator is returning value true if at least one of them is going to be true. And NOT operator just inverts the Boolean value that we had before. Let's have a look at these conditions. So in Python, you can write down it like this. You can see people writing it in Pascal, etc. Let's again have a look. Let's input 50. We can see that's its valid number. So we are using this example just to show how it works. But again, in Python, it can be replaced next way. Number is larger equal than 1 and less equal than 100. Let's say 52, valid number. So lines 2 and 3, they are equal and they can be replaceable. You can not just use AND for combination of numbers. Let's make it even a bit more interesting. So let's say that the number would be valid in case if it's even. How would we do? Let's copy this code again. We would need to write down here condition and number percentage is equal to 0. Now let's write down 51. It's an invalid number. Now let's rerun it again. 50 again. It's valid. How could we rewrite this code? Let's get rid of this line. Number 2, we don't need it anymore. So this condition AND, it replaces nested if-else. So we could have done one if statement, another if statement, and then we print valid number. In case if both of these nested values are failing, then what? Then we would print something else, such as what? Invalid number. But let's have a look what's going to happen in this case. So we write down 50. It says valid number. But now let's have a look at the value 200. It says invalid number. But what's going to happen if we decide to write down 51? I mean, says it would be nothing. Let's have a look what's going to happen if we really write down 51. 51, nothing really happens. Why does nothing happen? The value is invalid. It's not going to be valid. But that's the difference. Invalid number and number which is not valid are different numbers. Let me try to explain it to you again. We entered 51, which matches this condition in range from 1 to 100. Okay, then we are checking the next condition, this condition, if it's even or not. So the problem is it will never be able to reach this point after it went to this scope. It thinks it does not exist anymore. So let's try to see what the flowchart would be looking like. So it would print the number only in case if it's not in range from 1 to 100. In case if it's what? If it's in range from 100 to 100 and it's even, it would print as valid number. Otherwise, it would print as no. So in such cases, what I recommend you to not hurry writing your code, please draw flow charts. It's very important to understand every single step of your program, how it works. So how can we make it invalid to print invalid number in case if condition is not met? We can say else print invalid number. T1 and now it says invalid number. But as you can see, the code is repeated. We are printing invalid number twice. We are creating else statement twice. So let's see what it would be looking like in flowchart. Is really beautiful for this case because it goes to print invalid number. But again, it's a bit different from our code, unfortunately. So flowchart is beautiful, but code works a bit differently. So let's go back to let's save it here. And let's see how we can improve this code even more. Instead of printing it all the time, we can assume that by default output is invalid number. And in case if the number value is valid for us, we would just change it to valid number. And then in the end, we would just print the output. Let's see if it's going to work out. So first case, 200, invalid number. Next case, 50, valid number. The last case, 51, invalid number. And again, let's turn it into a flowchart. So we can see this flowchart and this flowchart, they're pretty much same. The only difference, it was printing here, and here we are setting the value. Let's copy it anyway. Perfect. Now let's have a look how we can use OR statement. So it's quite simple. As we mentioned before, the condition should be just either true or false. I made it quite complicated for beginning using .lower. Let's avoid using it for now. So let's say we are entering some value from keyboard and we know the weekend. Today is Saturday, so it means it's a weekend. So in case we have one of the conditions, if it's Saturday or Sunday, we are going to say it's weekend. And as you can see, I'm not checking, I'm not writing down elif Monday print, elif Tuesday print, elif etc. print. I'm just saying else, and this is more than just enough. It's going to be weekday in case if this condition is not met. So these operators allow us to combine a few conditions where we can exclude other unnecessary conditions. Let me show you some interesting example. Just 1 second. See if it's going to work out. So I'm going to show you some interesting. So let's have a look. The entire circle. What is this circle? So this entire circle, it is all of the days. And we can split our circle into 2 parts. Weekdays and weekend. So we just need to check condition of shared days here. Else, this else covers all of other weekdays. So we don't need to go that and to check condition for each of the days. Okay, let's put back .lower in case if you ask me if someone puts caps lock by accident. .lower, we are going to talk about this a bit later to see what it does. So let's say Saturday. I'm using capital one, the weekend. Let's try to type Sunday. It's still a week. Let's try to write down something like this. Monday, it understands that we are going to go deeper in details how we've typed Monday with different cases, but it's still figured it or uses slower. But again, we're going to talk about this during next session. Now let's have a very quick look at not condition. So what does it do? It basically swaps the value. In case if we, let's say we are staying on some sites and we are not logged, we're trying to do something, we would print the message log because not logged in. If it's going to be true, let's make it a bit more interesting. Else print already logged. As we can see, it changes the value to the opposite. There are many operators that you can use and combine. As you can see, equally, not equaling, greater, less, greater than or equal to, same for less than or equal. Now, let's have a look how we can combine them. Let's say we have some variable that stores age and some variable that stores income. And here we are combining 2 conditions. First condition is age condition. Another variable has income condition. So in case if we are older than 18 and we have income 50,000 per year annually, we are eligible for the loan. In case if any of the conditions is not met, we are not able to get any kind of loan. Let's have a look how it works. Let's have a look at the flowchart again. So as you can see, there is one way of flowchart. How we can check it? We are checking both conditions at the same moment. If it's 18 and if the income is larger than that. Let's make it look a bit more interesting. We have first condition here. In case if age is larger than 18, the first condition is met. Then we are going to check if the second condition is met as well, which is what? 5,000. In case if neither of the conditions is not met, we are saying that we are not eligible for the loan. Let's add the flow. So during exam, in case if you have few conditions that should be met, I would recommend you to use double branching, nested branching, call it whatever you prefer, as long as you understand what you are talking about and the person who are explaining it to. So you can see that not just one condition must be met, but you are showing what happens in case if both the conditions is not met when we are talking about end statement. Now, let's go back to, let's run the code. Insert 25. And let's say 36 cents. Now let's say I'm 70, my income is almost 2,000. I'm eligible for the loan. Perfect. Now let's have a quick look at the truth tables as we mentioned before. So what operator AND does? It checks conditions A and B. And as you can see, it would have the value true only in the case if both of them are true, false, false, true, false, false will always return as false. For or its opposite, just false, false will return false. Not what does not do, it just switching condition from A to false and from false to true. Now, let's have a look Add this interesting condition. So I'll give you 30 seconds to figure out what would be the output. Okay, so 3 people said it's true. Let's now have a look. So what do we have? A or B and C. It says true. That's correct. So now let's have a look again. We have A or B. We know that A is what? Is true. B is false. So it would be what? It would be true. And C is always true. We can try to play around. Let's say we would combine B and C. We know that B is false, C is true. We are combining them. We are getting false here. But again, A is true. So no matter what we are doing, it's still going to be staying true. So this is a good question. So have evaluation order and and is always evaluated before or. So in case if we would have let's say condition B and C or A here, so we would evaluate all AND conditions here first, and then we would jump to another OR condition. This is just a case where we managed to work out this. No matter what we are evaluating, the answer is the same. But usually AND is being evaluated first. Let's have a look at a bit more interesting example. So let's try to think what would be the output here in case if we are changing it. Let's make it as another cell, C and B. Let's think what would be the output here. At least 2 of you said it's true. Let's check if you're right. Let's write it down. So it says it's going to be true. Why is it going to be true? So let's write down how many conditions we have here. We have 3 conditions. This is the first condition. This is second condition. And this is third condition. So B and C, they have the first priority. Then this result has second priority here. And OR has got the last priority. Let me save explanation to this here. Okay. The next thing, I will not talk much about this. It's a new feature that was relatively recently added to Python. It's match case. So it just matches a few patterns inside programming languages like Java, C, C++, C#. It's called switch case. Switch case in other languages. So let's have a look. In case we have some variable, so instead of writing many different if statements, we can just define the behavior for our variable. It's very useful when we are working on such things like menu. When we have menu of some game, there are cases if you select new game, if you select load game, if you select settings, if you select exit, etc. Let's have a look how it works. So there is some defined menu here that is doing some action on what I'm entering. So let's have a look what the diagram would be looking like. Again, this is, I'm saying, match command.lower. So I'm going to take into consideration command.lower. And this basically my 3 if statements, elif and else statement. Let's have a look what the diagram would be looking like for this case. So we can see we are just branching into 4 cases at once. 4 scenarios. Yeah. Start, stop, pause, other. Before we had what? Branching into 2, then 2, then 2. And now it allows you to branch into 4. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if AQA updated their version of Python that they're using to 3.10, because last they were using 3.9. But in case if they allow you to use 3.10, then you can write this code instead of using a lot of if statements in your code. Let's go back to our again. Let's write down something like stop. Let's run down QA. Let's write down something. I will get 9 my GCSE. It will says unknown comment. Yeah, perfect. We are basically over with theoretical. There is another thing, important one. So order of operations, those that you need to know. Again, there is detailed order of all priorities. You can have a look at this later. Again, let's try to think about this example 12. What would be the out? We've got just one person saying that it's going to be false. Let's have a look if it's going to be false or not. So let's run the code and see the output, which is true. Why is it true? Let's see. First operation, we are comparing what? Numbers. We are comparing 5 and 3, which is true. Then we are comparing 2 and 4, which is true as well. So true and true, again, is going to be true. Now we are turning into no, which gives us what? False. 3 is obviously equal to 3. which is true. So false or true, it's going to be true. Again, there is step by step. So the first priority, inside of parentheses, we have two conditions to compare. 5 and 3, 2 and 4, which both are true. Then second priority, not after parentheses, which gives us false. 3 and 3 is true, and false or true is given us true. And there was one more example. Let's have a look at one of my favorite examples, such as, let's say we have number 15. And I want to check if the number is multiple of 15. So I want to check if what number is multiple of 5 and if number is multiple of 3. In this case, I would create a variable output that would be FizzBuzz. Let's create 3 more conditions by 5. So in case if it's by 5 is if it's going to be buzz, and else we are going to do what? We are just going to store in output just our number itself. Now let's try to print the output. So what do we expect here to get as the output? We definitely expect it to be FizzBuzz. Let's have a look if it's correct. Yes, it is correct. It is FizzBuzz. Let's now have a look at the diagram, what it would be looking like in this current case. Again, so as we can see, if number is divided by 5, number divided by 3, so what we can do, we set output to FizzBuzz. If it's just divided by 5, we would set an output to Fizz, etc. Now, let's have a look what's going to happen if I decide to change the order. Let's say I want to check it for 3 first. Now let's change the order. I want to check the comparison with 3 first, and then I'm going to check the comparison with 5, and then I'm going to check comparison with 15. Yeah, so instead of writing this, we could have written down 15. So let's see. Now I change the order. I put comparison to checking if multiple of 3 is first condition, second multiple of 5, and I replace condition of checking if it's multiple of 3 and 5 to check straight away if it's multiple of 15. Yeah, because it's the same thing. So now we would expect to get FizzBuzz, but let's see what we are going to get. We are going to get buzz. Why we are getting buzz? Again, condition for 15 is not being checked anymore since the condition for 3 is met. So all of these lines from line number 5 to number 10 are going to be skipped. Let's copy the flowchart for previous one, and now let's try to have a look the difference for this flowchart for new one. So we can see in the beginning we were checking if both of the conditions are met. Now we are checking if condition 3 is met, and then we are saying yeah, we are setting output to buzz and printing the output, which is incorrect because we will never be able to meet the condition that checks divisibility for 15. So again, order of comparisons matters in Python. Actually, not just in Python, in any other programming language as well. Now, we are going to have a few practice examples. There will be quite a few interesting examples. So what we are going to do, practice problems for you to strengthen your skills. So I have left flowcharts for you as a hint. The first one is a simple one. You have it about even or add checker. You just need to output number is even or odd. Next problem would be BMI calculate. There will be a few categories that you need to send your value to. As you can see, I just split it into 2 parts, so it would not be as massive. So here you would need to check some condition. You need to figure out which one. And then you would be checking your BMI. Sorry, not condition. Indeed, it's some entrance value that you are putting there. So you are checking, again, based on 4 conditions. You are allowed to use match case as well. Next one, leap year check. That's one of my favorite problems. In case if you are not divisible by 4, in case if it's not divisible by 100, in case if it's divisible by both, etc. Then there is condition for checking problem for triangle type determination. There is some very basic condition to know when triangles cannot be, the 3 sides cannot make a triangle. I will leave it for you to figure it out. Then there are a few more conditions that allow us to get triangle equilateral scaling. Then there is a random model that is used here. We're going to talk about this in details in a few sessions, I think in 3 or 4 sessions. But again, you can have a look at this code for those who are interested in these advanced problems. Number guessing game. It's very interesting problem. I used to play around with it when I was like 11, 12, trying to figure out what number computer figured it out. Sorry, what number computer came up with. This is, again, a very advanced level for handling errors and checking vowels or consonants. And another advanced level, how to check our password strength, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. So we've covered conditional statements, what if-elif-else is, what nested conditions are, what ternary operator, logic operators, how we combine them. We used some match case for solving one problem. We had to look at many different examples. So for you, the main task is to continue with practical examples. So for today, that's pretty much it. So as I mentioned before, next lesson, we are going to work on iterations, nested iteration structures, how we can use inner loops, etc. Thank you everyone who was here today. I hope to see you next weekend as well. Let me know in comments if you have any questions. Thank you everyone for coming today. I was happy to see you. I hope you enjoyed this session. Don't forget to like the video and to write a comment below, to follow the channel if you're not following it yet. See you next time. Bye bye. Thank you.